Welcome, superstar. In this video, I'm going to talk about the distinction between instinct and intuition. Now, you might be wondering, aren't instinct and intuition basically the same thing? Well, while we sometimes use them in the world interchangeably, they're actually quite different. And what I want to talk about today is how to tell the difference and when each one is relevant, when to pay attention and when to question what's coming up for you. Now, the first person that ever taught me about the difference between these two things was Jake Merriman. He was one of my very first mentors, one of my first personal development and spiritual development mentors, in addition to being a business mentor. And I remember using the word instinct and him correcting me and saying, "No, you're talking about intuition." And I said, "Well, wait, aren't they the same thing?" And he said, "No." And something that I'll never forget was, he said, instinct is usually driven by fear, and intuition is usually driven by vision. And as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That feels true to me. And so we talked about it a little, and over the years, I've been able to think about it some more. I've been able to work through it with some clients. And what I've discovered is that one is indeed driven by fear, and I would say that the other is not just driven by vision, but rather by insight. So let's talk about each of these and dive a little bit deeper and see how you can develop your senses around each one of these and utilize them to make better decisions and to add more positivity and value to your life. All right, so let's start with instinct. Instinct is more reactive, and it's driven usually by the part of the brain that's connected to the oldest part of our brain, the reptilian part of the brain, the part of our brain that is concerned with survival and that has access to that fight or flight, freeze response. And so when we feel our instinct kick in, usually or often it's a very physical, real danger that we're sensing. So instinct often kicks in situations like, for example, walking down a dark alley at 2 a.m. and our spidey senses, we hear footsteps coming quickly behind us. That might be our instinct kicking in, like, we're not safe here. Pay attention, become alert, and you might feel yourself getting really present, really the energy driving to your arms and legs, getting ready to either fight or to run. So there's a very physical and physiological response, an automatic response very often to instinct coming up. And so there's a very positive value to this reaction, to this response. We need this. We want to know if we're in danger and we're going to need to run away or we're going to need to fight back. Like, this is a survival mechanism. So the context within which we have this matters, right? Okay, dark alley, 2 a.m, pay attention. But if we find that instinctive fear response coming up in a different situation, like say we're about to go on stage and speak in front of 1,000 people, then that's not a really appropriate response. And we might want to actually work with that or do something about that. That's not a real threat or a real survival threat. There's not a need to fight or flee. In fact, we want to show up our best self. And so we might need to kind of rework and reframe that situation so we don't have that fight or flight, instinctual, fear-based, survival-driven response. But let's say that we meet a new person on a dating site, we get together for coffee, and that fear response comes up. Well, then we're in a situation where it's like, what do we do here? Is this a real thing with a real danger that I'm sensing, or is this some pattern that's showing up where I get in fear whenever I come close to finding someone that I might fall in love with, right? So like, this is where you might want to say, all right, let's go over here and let's look at intuition and let's tap into intuition. So intuition is more tied to vision. It's more tied to insight. It's more tied to what I consider our highest self, right? So we talked about instinct being tied to that base reptilian part of the brain, fight or flight. I associate intuition with our connection to the divine, with our connection to spirit, to source, to God, to whatever it is that we believe and that we connect to that's greater than us. That intuition can bring us towards that and can connect us to our more expanded self, our highest self, our best self. And so our intuition might be more connected to what we're pulling towards, while our instinct might be more connected to what we're moving away from, what we're afraid of, or what we're pushing away. So that's another thing to just consider. And each of these may feel different in our bodies too, right? Whereas like instinct might be very visceral, very physiological, maybe constricting, contracting, whereas intuition might be more connected to like the higher realms, or like our more expanded self, our more visionary, might be more uplifting, more inspiring, or something like that. Now, if you like what I'm talking about and you want to share with me, I'd love to hear your comments below. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button so that I know that you appreciated this video. Thank you. So the question is how to tap into these, how to kind of utilize them more effectively in our lives. Now, I've got 4 C's. You know me, I love my alliteration and I love my structure. So I've come up with these 4 kind of categories to look at when you are facing a situation, when something's coming up and you're not sure, is this instinct, is this intuition, is this fear-based, is this vision, like what is this? Here are some 4 categories to look at and to consider. The first is connection to yourself, your connection to your body. Sometimes we get so caught up in the world that we can't really even distinguish what's happening. And so I invite you to slow down and connect, and just like, if you can, and we'll talk about in a moment, sometimes you can't, like, can you feel into the situation that something's coming up around? Are you feeling like a red flag and you're not sure what it means? Are you in a business decision or making a contract and something feels a little off? I'm actually in a situation like that right now, and I'm remembering like, oh, I need to slow down, connect, and just feel into what is the discomfort, what's coming up. Is it fear of making a mistake? Is it fear of losing a relationship? Is it fear of being rejected? Is it, oh, maybe this just isn't aligned for me. Maybe this is not the right direction to move in. Maybe, right? So like, what is going on? So we want to slow down and connect to even notice. The second thing is the context we're in matters. Like what I said earlier, dark alley, 2 a.m. is very different from bright, well-lit room filled with 1,000 people in an audience, right? Like, what's the context here? Are we actually safe, or are we actually in danger? What do we know from the context that can give us information about the situation? The third thing is, what is the consciousness that I'm coming from? Now, this is a little more subtle. Once we start to slow down and tap in and develop that relationship with ourselves, and by the way, I have a video called How to Tap Into Your Inner Voice, How to Find Your Inner Voice. I highly recommend it. Once we have a sense of tapping into ourselves and getting connected and becoming self-aware, one thing you can check in is, what consciousness am I coming from? Am I coming from fear-based consciousness? Am I in fear? Am I running a pattern that's old, that's not necessarily relevant here? Or am I in an abundant consciousness? Am I feeling inspired and expanded and passionate? Like, where am I? So there's the context of where's the world, what's going on out here, but there's also the context of what's going on in here. Is this triggering an old wound from my childhood? Does this remind me of my mother? Is this, remind me of some pain that I endured when I was a little kid? Like, what's going on here? Where am I coming from? What are my triggers in this? And does that mean I'm operating from instinct when I could be operating from intuition? And if so, clearing out the fear, like going into it, finding out what's there and moving yourself along to be able to tap into that higher, more expanded self. And then finally, a great question is, what are the consequences in the situation of making a wrong decision? Like, let's say it's 2 a.m, dark alley, footsteps behind you. Do you want to stop and check in and tap in and check your consciousness? Well, the consequences could be very high if you're wrong. So in a situation like that, you might just want to act and get out of there, and then slow down and check in and be like, wow, really, I wasn't in any danger because whatever, right? But the consequences of making a bad mistake in a situation like that could be high. Or like, what are the consequences of going on a bad date? Not a big deal, see ya, hello, goodbye, no big deal. Yeah, you got a bad vibe, bad feeling, but you're not, don't give them your number, right? So just like check in with, what are the consequences? I'm feeling this, discomfort around this contract that I want to sign. It's a year long. If I make a bad decision here, I'm stuck with this for a whole year. Or if I make a bad decision, I'm out $500. All right, no big deal, right? Whatever it is for you, right? So just looking at the consequences of a mistake. Are they high or are they low? And if they're low, can you just, set it aside, or be willing to be detached, or be willing to make a mistake? No big deal. You don't want to do that when the consequences and the stakes are very high. If you're curious about how to apply some of these principles and practices to your business, and you're looking for a mentor, a guide, someone to support you in doing that, let's connect. You can find me at superstaractivator.com/go.